Okay, welcome to Blast Farms. This is our first video we've done. We're going to start trying to post a few videos of how to build things for birding or just around our farm, things we do. Our first one, we're going to look into how to build a snow bunting cage. This is a snow bunting trap. This corner underneath, the snow buntings come along and they go inside these little holes, and then when they come in here they go in to get the corn, and then they're trapped. You lift the lid and you're able to take the snow bunting out. Close the lid back up. That's how they work. But clearly we have 4 spots for traps and only 1 trap, so we need to go build some more. So keep watching and you'll see how to build them. Okay, so now we're going to get started building, but these are the tools we need. We'll start, there's some cage clips here for holding the cage together. There's some crimps for the clips. You put the clip inside here, and that just rolls it into a nice roll. We have some files for the sharp edges when you cut. We want to file it down so you don't cut your hands. We have some Kimpex snips. That's what we're using to cut the wire. We have some tin snips also, and we have some needle nose pliers. The needle nose pliers are for if crimp gets on a place you don't want it, just take it off. It's easier with needle nose. We have gloves to make sure you don't cut your hands. We have a rubber mallet. We use the rubber mallet and this 2x4 for making our edges straight when we fold the wire. We have a pail for catching all of our cutoffs, especially in the laneway here. We don't want to pop a tire. And we have a roll of 1 inch by 1 inch square 16 gauge welded wire. You need to use 16 gauge, and to build this project you'll need at least 15 feet. To construct the snow bunting trap, you need to build these pieces. You may want to pause the video and just jot these down. Okay, so for doing the small pieces, which are the flaps for the entrances of the snow bunting cages, we just need 3 1-inch squares. So we use scrap pieces such as this, cut over the bin. It's a good way to get rid of all your scrap pieces, because you just need 3 squares by 1 square. And then of course you don't want the snow buntings to catch themselves on these clips, or on these tight snipped areas. So you want to file those sharp edges down. I like to file by sticking my fingers through each hole, and then that way I can just rub the file on it. You'll see it's a nice smooth pieces of metal now. Go all the way around. Now this piece is ready to be mounted, and we will keep building the other 12. Alright, we have finished our entrance flaps. Now we're going to work on making our entrances, which from the picture shows that it's 9 inches across. So being in 1 inch square, it's easy. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Make sure you cut on the outside of it. Now we go down 3 inches, so that's 3 squares. Again, cut on the outside of it. And there should be 6 inches of top flap, 3 inches of the bottom flap, so you should end up with a piece that looks like an L. Now we're going to have to file all these edges down, of course, again, as to keep the birds safe and our hands safe. And I'm going to continue on cutting 11 more. Don't be afraid of the waste. You can't get away from some of the waste here, as every time you make a cut you lose an inch of material. Here's our door flaps. It's 10 by 10 square, and they will get held together with these clips, and then that way the door just hinge on the cage when we build the cage. I'll move on to the next piece. Okay, as you can see, we took everything out of our workspace. We're going to do the large section of the cage now. From the drawing you'll see that it's 48-inch sections for the bottom and the top, and we're going with an 8-inch height. So we're building it all out of one piece. If we could build it out of one piece and wrap it up into the rectangle, it will save on the amount of clips used and save on the sharp edges that would be around birds. So we're going to start by counting out 48 squares, and then starting our first snip. So Anna, if you can go to that side and count out 48. We'll just make sure we get to the same spot together. Now we're going to cut in 4 squares worth, because that's how much we're going to be rolling up each side. Now we've done 4 snips deep, so that's our 4-inch wall. Now we have an 8-inch height, so we're going to have to cut along here 8 squares worth. 2, 3, yep, 4, 5, 6, and then return back to the outside. Make sure you don't cut 8 wires. 8 wires is different than 8 squares worth. So when you're done, you will have, I don't know if I can tilt this enough, you'll have sort of a H pattern on there. That is going to be your side. So this is your base, your side. Now we have to cut. Count another 48 and cut again. Okay, yep, perfect. We got to the same one, which is just verifying that we counted correctly. And we want to go in again 4 squares worth and across 8 squares or 8 inches. And this would be our other side. And since it's our other side, I will continue to cut all the way down, and we will have our piece. And now we should have a nice long piece that is 48 by 8, 48 by 8. And most importantly, our long edges of these 48 are factory cuts, so there's no sharp edges on them. We trimmed up the edge off of our last cut from our roll. The last pieces that we need before we assemble everything would be our 2 16-inch long by 8-inch dividers to divide our trap into 3. So the easiest way I've seen to do this is just count out 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we need to snip. Are you snipping or am I?
You can.
Okay. We need to snip on this side. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Doesn't hurt to double check if you're counting. Might save you from wasting material. When you're cutting, make sure you never cut over the wire. You're trying to get close, so if you're cutting over the top wire, you're going to end up being well away from the edge, making it that much harder for you to file down and tidy up. You always want to cut with your snips flat against the wire.
Okay.
So you have nice smooth cuts. And that is why I like to choose this style of plier. So your two sides ride on a piece of metal like that, and then you snip. Got to trim again. The piece at the end that I'm leaving is, I'm trying to leave the largest piece I can. Or if we're building another cage, we could always build an entrance out of that piece. Or if we're building something else with this wire, at least we have a nice sort of large section left to build with. There we go. There's our two dividers.
They're the same size.
They're the same size and been verified.
Yes.
Now it's time to file them down. Alright, now we have all of our pieces. You'll see we have our flaps, the pieces that we are going to fold into our entrances, our dividers, and our main part. Now that we have all the pieces, we're going to start assembling. So I like to start by building the entrances first. So to do that, we are going to, we had the board earlier. If you're doing it on the floor, you lay the board across and then fold. That way you have something nice and firm. Luckily, we're using a table that we don't mind beating up against. So we're going to just fold using the table. So you take your straight edge, your 9, fold down the first set of 3, and then this is where you take it with a mallet, just to make sure it's nice, solid. It should come out pretty much a 90 degree. And then the way that you bend that, if we bend it down, this side has to bend down for the entrance. So you can find the corner, the edge of the table that will work for that. Start your bend. Doing a couple taps there. Now you have your entrance. And then we have to take the flap and mount it to your entrance. You don't want to mount it right in line in case it gets jammed. So you bring it over half of a square. So you do that by putting a cage clip in your crimper. And I crimp my first one half over. That way it is impossible for it to slide into that hole. And then you can put either 1 or 2 more, holding up your flap. They go on quite easily. I like to go with 3. I've seen cages built with a lot less cage clips, but and now see how that flaps? So the bird will walk in this hole, and while eating will come out here, that flips, letting them in, and then when they try to come out later, they see this thinking it's a wall, it will not try to exit there. So my daughter now is going to build a few more of these. We need 6 this style, entering and exiting this way, this way. And we need 6 going the other way, which I had already built one previously. So it goes the other way. So now while she continues on with that, I'm going to show you how to put the entrances on the dividers. So this divider, these edges would be the outsides of the cage. So you want the holes on the outside of the cage. You want to do this all at the same time. These clips will hold 3 wires in them. But it is definitely a little bit harder to do. I like to put one at each end first. If you do one at each end first, everything will be nice and lined up for you. Do all the rest. Go. Now I will continue on. There. Now we'll do the same on the other side when the other ones get made. And we will have a nice divider with 4 entrances once we have the other side done. Okay, now we've done building all the entrances. This is the way they're going to set up. We verified the entrances on each side have the holes and everything lines up right. So we're going to lower these down. So we can now work on our main cage. This is the side we need. So we're going to start with, that's okay, you can let that fall. We're going to start with the side that has the 8 inches here. That's a good way to build your first wall. You can put, yeah, if you get the board, sure. And the mallet. Hold this here. I'm going to put my knee on here just to hold it still. Bend that up. If you could tap that. Oh. You need to hold this with your hand and hit that with the mallet. Harder. Alright. So use the flat side of it.
Why is that confusing?
You can hit it pretty good. Don't worry about hurting me. Alright. That side's bent up. Now we are going to bend up our 4-foot side.
I need to go to the front then, don't I? I'm gonna pull it up all.
I find it works best. If you start at one edge, you can start hitting with the mallet. Yep. And then just keep moving down. You just want to make sure it's bending up along that bottom row. There we go. And that will be our bottom of our trap. Now we can start putting these pieces back in. kind of see how they're going to be built now. Actually, we should start by putting our counting our 16 spots for our dividers, mounting our dividers, and then we have to cut our 3" by 3" holes on all the entrances. So let's count across for our divider. 1, 2. For this part, I only do one every 3 or 4 holes. We can tidy that up later, getting the rest. It's mainly just about having it held in place for now. All right, I've done most of the other side. We'll just show you now how to do this side. You'll see here we've cut holes, but I will cut the hole here. It's a 3" by 3" square we made. If you remember, by folding that piece, it was 3" by 3". So that means when you're cutting this, you'll see where it lines up. Should be 2 pieces of wire on every side that we need to cut. Should bring you to the 3 inches. Come out nice now, like a little square. That goes in there. Now you have your holes. Put that to line up. Take a few clips. Take a few clips. I'll show you a little closer. So there's 2 prongs on one side and 1 on the other. The clip goes in with the roll part on the bottom, and the single has just the top. I don't know if you can see that. Now, because there's 3 squares, I like to clip, you can do all 3, but I like to clip the inside and the outside square. That way, I know it's strong, but since it's not holding weight or structure of the cage itself, I don't feel the need to do every single spot on this section. And you'll want to do the same along the bottom. As we saw over the edge, I can push the cage down. To make sure I get the roll on it. And again, do the inside and outside square. And we have to get the back. We did the side earlier when we attached it to the divider. And now we keep going on. Alright, so now we have our entrances all on. Here's where the bird comes in, comes out here, and here where the corn would be. That's all set. Everything's all crimped, so now it's time to fold our lid up and over. So we want to bend that. Remember, this is an 8-inch section as well, so we need to make sure we're bending with it, and we want to crimp a bit on the side wall here. So when doing this section, last time I remembered to bend this first before I lifted it up. I should have done that. But since I've already put a few crimps on, we will bend it now by Standing that up, you can hold that. Remember, this part can also be done on the ground, which is kind of a little easier because then you can step on the wood and hammer back towards your feet, holding the board still. Go. Now when we fold this, you can take the top part. It should line up. There we go. And that closes the trap. Now we can start applying our crimps in this back corner down here, and then work our way across. Okay, so now we have to cut the holes because we have a way for the bunting to get in, but we don't have a way to get the buntings back out. So we have to cut our holes for our arms, which if we go in the center with a 16-inch square, we want an 8-inch square in the center. So count 4 in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and we'll snip along there, and 4 in here. There's our 8-inch square cut out. Now we got to file down the edges and mount our door. I'm going to continue on doing these 3 and we'll be back at you in a minute. Okay, we've cut our holes. We have our 10 by 10 pieces. Now to mount the roof, or the lid, we are now going to line up. You should have 1 inch covering all the way around in a square. And we put clips on one side like a hinge. I like to choose if there's a side of it, I'd previously felt it, but if there's a side that tends to be a little sharper than the other sides, I like to put that as the hinge side. That way there's less of a chance of people cutting themselves. And on the hinge I normally do every second one. There's lots of gap in them, so this will hinge nicely, you'll see. So now, when your snow bunting's in there, you can open this up, reach anywhere in there, get the bird out, and close it again. If you find it's lifted up a little bit, you can always just give it a little bit of a bend, and it'll sit more down. Play with it as you need to. There you go, see? A little more flat. We've already done the other ones as well. Let's make it quick. The cage is done. Now we can go put it to use.